Walk us through your college recruitment. Your list is, basically everyone. But what was it? How did you narrow down your list back then?
Oh man, I was being recruited by everyone. I mean, I went from my sophomore year to being unknown, to having a great sophomore season, making it to the state high school championship where we lost to an eventual teammate of mine at UVA, Mark Cook. And then that following summer, man, my recruitment blew up. Back then, AAU wasn't as big, but what was huge were basketball camps, 5-star basketball camp, prep star. And I remember going to those camps and just exploding onto the scene. And that's when my recruitment just blossomed. And I finally narrowed my college choices to the University of Virginia, Duke, Villanova, Georgia Tech, and Hampton University. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. I was a huge fan of North Carolina basketball, and I was heartbroken that they didn't recruit me. And when I narrowed my list, I narrowed my list in August, heading into my senior year. And 2 weeks after I narrowed my list, I got a phone call from Dean Smith, and I almost cried. The hardest thing I had to do was to tell him that I had closed my recruitment and I was going to stick with the 5 that I had selected. And, I took my visits, to each of those schools. My first visit actually was to Duke University. It was an amazing visit. Danny Ferry took me out. I was on 4 of my official visits with Christian Laettner, and we had talked about going to the same school. We visited UVA, Duke, Villanova, and Georgia Tech together. And Christian and I were talking about possibly going to the same school. It made sense. We thought that we could be a heck of a 1-2 punch. And back then, what happened was the last day of the recruiting period, the coaches will always go and see their number 1 recruit. So on the last day, Duke went to see Christian Laettner, and my mom was a huge fan of Christian Laettner, and of Coach K and their staff, Mike Bray, Bob Bender. Those guys were the assistant coaches. And University of Virginia came to see me on the last day of recruitment. And I said, Mom, as much as I love Duke and Coach K and what they have to offer, and I'll be surrounded by great players and think we have a chance to win a national championship, I just feel the love at the University of Virginia and Coach Holland and, Coach Odom and Coach Jones and Coach Littlepage. I think that I could be able to maximize my talents more at the University of Virginia rather than Duke. I had called Coach Crimmins. I loved everything that they had to offer. They said, they were going to put me alongside, Brian Oliver and Dennis Scott and Tom Hammonds. I went up to Villanova. They told me that, although I played the same position as Doug West, I will see a lot of minutes, and then I'll be ready to step into his footsteps as soon as he graduated. At the end of the day, I just felt comfortable just going to UVA, and that's what made my decision.
And then
I'll tell you something, B. That whole Duke recruiting story scared me a little bit here. I'm like, wait, don't tell me Bryant Stith's going to Duke. Don't tell me he's going to Duke. I'm like, did this shit really happen?
Oh man, I'm telling you, man. My mom really loved them, and obviously, as a family, when we talked together, and I told them that I was leaning toward UVA. I saw
Yeah.
tears and stuff kind of roll down her eyes, but she respected it because she said it was my decision. But Coach K had her wrapped around her fingers.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, you become obviously name in the rafters, adored, maybe greatest player ever in Virginia history. I mean, you got what you wanted, right? In terms of you were the program changer at Virginia versus at Duke. Maybe you're just a number, right? Who knows? Right? We don't know that, but it's just kind of like Duke had so much going on at that time. It was interesting.
Well, look, man, first of all, I'm not the greatest player to ever play at UVA. And, I may have scored the most points, but there's a guy by the name of Ralph Sampson. But I tell you one thing, man. I regret nothing about my decision by attending the University of Virginia. I loved all 4 years, every experience that I had there. And, UVA made me the man that I am, and I owe so much, to what, I have become later in life because of my experiences there in Charlottesville. So I do not regret my decision. Not at one time do I ever think about what would have happened if I had chosen Duke or if I had gone to
no regrets.
Georgia Tech or Villanova. So I'm glad that I was a part of the UVA basketball family.
Outside of basketball, what are your favorite memories about the grounds at UVA?
Oh man, there's just so many.
If you just think of like three to five favorites.
Well, first of all, I'm a huge football fan. If anybody knows me, everybody knows that I think that I could have been in the NFL. So I used to go to the all of the football games. That was the highlight of my week. During the fall, being able to go to the football games and support my teammates because I live with football players. I live with Terry Kirby and Chris Slade, Sean Moore. I live with Ron Carey and Big Ray Roberts, and we will all sit down and we would have our powwows, and they thought that they could be basketball players. I thought that I could be a quarterback or Herman Moore. So I really, really embraced those Saturdays in the fall when I had a chance to go and be a part of UVA football, particularly when we were there. They had made it to number one in the country until they lost to Georgia Tech. So, I mean, I was all a part of that huge movement. Second, being from the country, man, I'm a nature person. Just to be able to see those cherry blossoms, man, in the fall and in the spring, I would just go out there, sit and just read books, do studying, just take pictures. I mean, it was just amazing how beautiful our campus was in the fall and spring. So that's the second thing that I remember most. The third thing is a little bit removed off of campus, but just being able to have a relationship with Kenny and Sissy Leatherwood. I mean, they basically became my mom and dad away from home. And being able to get away from the grind and the pressure that was over on grounds, and being able to just, being able to
Call from 800 service. Call from 800 service. Call from 800 service.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Just being able to just get away from the grind and the pressure, and just being able to go over there and relax. We are still great friends to this day. Mr. and Mrs. Leatherwood have essentially become part of our families. Their son is like, a little brother to me, Kevin. So, those are, three of the things that stick out to me most about my experiences, at the University of Virginia.
Be nice. Be nice. No shout out for Rugby Road.
I mean,
I don't think I saw you on Rugby Road.
I wasn't a big Rugby Road guy, man. I maybe went over there once or twice. I just kind of stayed in my room and studied on the weekends, and occasionally went to the SAB, and we'll leave it at that. Next question.
And this next photo, this voted most likely to succeed. You got JJ. This is, I think, his first season as head coach. But this old school poster with John Crotty that's framed up in a picture in the back.
Yeah, he looks like he was part of that portrait, rather part of the team. But hey, man, I tell you, that first year when JJ took over as the youngest head coach in ACC history, man, we had so much momentum coming back that year that no one within our program doubted the fact that we had a chance to be very good. And man, we got off to an amazing start. We lost to UCLA in the Great Alaska Shootout, which was a hell of a game. And man, we were marching. I think we had gotten up to 11th in the country. And
schedule.
When Anthony Oliver broke his hand, that changed the fortunes of our season because we relied on everybody and what they could bring to the table. And Anthony was such a big part of what we did, defensively, that, it was hard to replace that. And, after Anthony got hurt, I mean, with the schedule that we had, I want to say we played 3 games on Tobacco Road, back to back. And, we had 3 consecutive losses, and we just weren't able to recover from that.
Yeah, right here in March, you can see at Duke, at North Carolina, at Wake Forest.
And I want to say Anthony broke his hand the week prior before we went on that road trip. And, man, that just basically just kind of sealed our fate.
And then I'll jump. We're going to jump around a little bit here, but here's this next one.
Come on, B.
BJ said you still got the shirt in the back. This is the Slovakia game. Y'all dressed up on, I don't know what staircase that is. Fresh as somehow respectable.
This was inside the rotunda. This was inside the rotunda. But I always tell BJ that, when I was young, man, I was the smoothest one of all the stiff men. No question.
You know what? He didn't refute that. He didn't argue that.
Yeah,
he just said that shirt is definitely still in your closet to this day. That's what he said.
No, BJ is telling that no, that's not the case. I don't buy many clothes, but no, I do not have that shirt. But what's funny about this, I remember Anthony used to say, "Yeah, I'm the pimp, and these all girls, right? All the guys."
He's got like a quadruple-breasted suit on that one, yo.
Those were the days, man.
There's Terry Kirby right there, our Bo Jackson for Virginia.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then
Big Red, rest his soul.
This next one.
Oh, man.
Setting the basketball world on fire, and this is you.
That was a sweet
1990 Wooden Award candidate.
I have that in every house that I've ever lived in. This is like my favorite all-time poster. I love that poster.
Old school Virginia. I was gonna say that this is heading into your last year.
Yes, heading into my senior year. I had so many expectations. For my final year at UVA. Wanted to be able to make it to the NCAA tournament and see if we could at least get back to the Elite 8 like I did, my first year.
Yeah.
Just had so many aspirations. We had a great recruiting class coming in, but it took us a while to gel. And, we kind of hit our stride toward the end of the season. And, even though we weren't able to make the NCAA tournament, we were able to win the NIT, and that was a sweet ending to, a very good career for myself.
And we'll get to that one. Here's the first one. I couldn't find a photo. This is the game we all talk. This is of legend here. The comeback against Notre Dame where you scored the last 19. What do you remember? Like, Fresh says, I bet he doesn't even remember it. Like,
He does.
What do you remember about that game?
He does not remember being in the game because you were on another planet in the last 2 minutes. I couldn't even talk to you. I was like, come on.
What's funny about this, man, is later on in my career, I got drafted by the Denver Nuggets, and LaFonso Ellis got drafted 5th, and I went 13th. And, LaFonso went to Notre Dame, and every time he said something smart to me, I always would bring this game up. Always would bring this game up. I said, I'm not going to tell you what I used to tell Fonz exactly, but we used to have a lot of fun off of it, man. I just remember John Crotty got into foul trouble.
Right.
And, it was like a switch. It was like, oh, my goodness, man, somebody has to take over this game. And literally, Fresh came in, and every time Fresh came down the floor, he gave me the basketball. This never would have happened without Doug Smith. Literally, if I was double team, triple team, Fresh would throw the ball up in the air, I'll go get it, and then good things seem to happen.
I was afraid of you in that game. I have 2 stories from this game. outside of my big 3 from the corner, different story. I think we're down by 1 or it's tied and there's 2 seconds left. Our ball underneath, right? Our basket. Now you had the last 17 points in the whole game. They are literally they have 4 guys guarding you. Turner's open, AO's open, and you're looking at me like, yo, Fresh, the ball's coming here. I just threw the ball up, B, and I turned around and didn't even watch, and then buckets. And do you remember we go back to the locker room and Coach Jones was like, you know who our MVP was today? Motherfucking Fresh. I was like, I go, yeah, B, nice. You didn't do shit today, B. Sorry, I'll take it.
I remember that. Absolutely. Well, that was an amazing game, man. It was on national TV. Yeah. We had a big audience. And what's funny about that is when I went down to Orlando, to the Orlando Classic, which is a pre-draft camp, when I got interviewed by NBA teams, they all referenced that game. So,
wow.
A lot of teams, a lot of people got a chance to see that performance, and I was just glad we were able to come out on the winning end.
He never lost to them.
No, I used to remind LaFonso of that as well. I told him I should have been the 5th pick and he should have been 13.
Oh, for sure. Facts.
Flip that money.
And we're going to go down. You touched on this. This is the bracket 1989 NCAA tournament. Yeah, number 5 Virginia versus Providence. Talk about your chip tooth incident. You remember that? I loved your quote when they asked you, what was it? Did it hurt having a chip tooth you're playing? You said, no, only when I breathed. So what was that like?
The only thing about it, man, because we were in a dog fight and I was having a pretty good game. John, Richard, we were balling. And when I broke my tooth, instinctively, I just kind of put my hand up and all of my parts of my tooth just kind of fell in my hand. I remember going up and down the court a few times. Luckily, nobody threw me the basketball and there was a timeout. And I went up to Ethan. I said, Ethan, I'm going to hand you these and you better not tell Coach Jones, Coach Holland, or Coach Odom. You better not tell them. He said, what is it? I said, my tooth just came out. And he said, is it bothering you? I said, man, it's killing me, but you better not say anything to him. And me and Ethan became like that. That was like my best friend because he could hold the secret. I was like, yeah, this is a dude I can go in the Oxford with right here.
And then, so what was it like playing with that? Because I imagine it hurt every step, because your nerve is now exposed and you're running around.
Man, it was excruciating. But I mean, when you get and in the moment, and you don't want to be able to, it was no guarantee that I would be able to make it back to the NCAA tournament. We wanted to advance so well. We thought that we had the momentum. So man, you were gonna have to carry me off that court.
That's awesome.
Man, if I wasn't gonna be able to play that game, not because of a chip tooth.
And that wasn't your first chip tooth incident, right? There was another game where you were swallowing your blood so that no one would know, or was that game?
No, this was all part of the same game.
Oh yeah, that was the same.
Mhm.
That's wild. So for people that don't know, during the game, your mouth was filling up with blood and you were just swallowing it so no one would know. Is that right?
Yep. And the coaches kept asking me questions and stuff in the huddle, and all I was doing because it was my very front tooth, and if I had started talking, and
they would know.
Obviously they were going to see it, and I just didn't want to take that chance.
So we win 197. What happens after that game? With your tooth? Did you immediately go?
Well, immediately after the game, Coach Ethan told Coach Holland, and he said, "What do you mean? When did this happen?" And, he was asking all of these questions. By this time, I'm laid up in the corner, trying to get medication because my tooth is killing me. But, we had a day in between games. I was able to go to a local dentist, and they were able to work on it and be able to get me ready for the Middle Tennessee State game.
Wow, that's wild. Did you know that fresh? Do you remember anything?
I know I don't. And I was up there because that's when finally Virginia got smart enough to start recruiting me. It was during that tournament. And I'm down there in Fayetteville, so I'm going to the games and meeting all the guys, but I had no idea.
Because you were being recruited during this Oklahoma game, right? This tournament. This is when you're
recruited. Well, and these games were in Vanderbilt, so I was up there having dinner with the guys, and I told Coach Holland I'll get back to him on my offer because I got some other stuff going on, like Arkansas State. I was trying to play it cool. I just thought Bryant was missing a tooth. I thought it was normal, yo.
That's crazy.
But I do remember going to those games, and you just coming off the double screen and 15 to 18 foot buckets,
money, automatic,
over and over. I'm like, who is this dude?
As a matter of fact, when I started coaching at Brunswick, man, I used to run that play. That was my favorite play to call because it just had so many different options. It had a post-up option. It had an option where you came off the double screen. Right. You could reverse the basketball, and then they would reverse it back for an isolation. If you were a scorer, it just gave you so many opportunities to attack the basket.
And then the Oklahoma game, that was a big one. It's kind of on another national stage for you. What do you remember about going against Stacey King and those guys? Well,
obviously, they were the number one seed. Yeah. Nobody gave us a snowball chance in hell to win that game. We were playing at Rupp Arena. I mean, it was an electric crowd. We were at the same site as the University of North Carolina. So when the game kind of started, we had our fans and, they were cheering, but, that was basically it. What I remember the most, I remember the North Carolina Tar Heel fans just going absolutely nuts when we won that game. And, that showed me then that, even though that there was bad blood between Coach Holland and Dean Smith, that it was bigger, man. It was ACC against the world. And,
right.
That's when I understood the fraternity and the strength of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
And then the following game, we talked about it with JJ, Virginia, Michigan. And I think we talked about Richard Morgan too, in terms of how that game went, the landslide. What do you remember?
I remember that Glenn Rice was on an absolute tear. He may have had one of the best NCAA tournaments in the history of the game.
Yep.
And that tournament propelled him to a different level. He really became a megastar during this tournament. And but after we had beaten Oklahoma, we felt that we had a chance. And Michigan came out and played a junk defense on me. And that's the first time that I had ever had a team play a diamond and one against me. And they put Sean Higgins, who was 6'8", and it really confused me. And I struggled to score in the first half. And Richard wasn't on that game. Crotty couldn't hit. And I really felt that, you know, my inability to figure out their defense and figure out the score kind of doomed us. And once they got their lead, we weren't able to overcome it. They were just too talented and too good. But I grew up a lot. I remember going back and just watching the replays of that game, figuring out different ways I could score against a diamond or a boxing one defense, because if anybody played me that again, I wanted to be ready for it.
Yeah, Sean Higgins also another crazy game.
Yes.
Sean Higgins and Glenn Rice, ridiculous. That wasn't the most. I mean,
they had Lloyd Vault, Terry Mills, Ramil Robinson. Man, that was the most talented team. You know, we played against some good Duke teams, but I'll put that Michigan team up against anybody that we played my 4 years at the university. I think that was the best team that I ever encountered.
And they did not let up that game. They were on that game because I think Glenn Rice was 9 for 11. Yeah. And
they were hitting everything.
We'll jump to the next bracket. This game, 1991. Once again, this is the Richmond Coliseum. Virginia and Notre Dame is the first matchup. One of your many matchups with Notre Dame, but this one a little more meaningful. First round NCAA 7-10. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I do. I remember, you know, playing at the Richmond Coliseum, man. The crowd was rocking. It was a very good game. It was a close game. You know, we were able to be victorious. But what I really remember, man, is us playing against Syracuse, man. I tell you, that next game, I may have had one of the best games that I had in my career. And I was hitting everything. I was hitting threes. I was hitting mid-range jump shots. I was getting on the offensive glass. I mean, they kept rotating guys on and off of me. And it came down to the last shot. Again, I had beaten my guy, and Derek Coleman rotated over and forced me to take a pull-up jump shot from the short corner. And, man, I wasn't good enough, man. I didn't have that fadeaway jump shot in my repertoire. I relived that shot over and over again, man. If I had shot a fadeaway jump shot, I think I would have been able to get the ball over his outstretched arms, and it would have been bucket because I was making everything. Yeah. If he hadn't blocked that shot, it was going in. But, you know,
he got a lot of arm on that block, B. I was sitting right there. He got a lot of arm on that.
I think most Virginia fans had always – I think at game day – the first time UVA got on game day, somebody held up a sign that said, Derek Coleman fouled Bryant Stith. That's how much pent up, like, people think about that shot still to this day. Like, that's so –
I know, man. I know. But it never should have come to that, man. Yeah. I should have hit him with the baby fadeaway right on the baseline, just teardropped him, and we go on to advance to the next round.
So Mark's friend and I were on the phone with Billy Owens not that long ago, and he talked about, he's like, I don't mind Virginia. And the first thing I said to him was, well, that's because Derek Coleman fouled Bryant Stith and they didn't call it. he got such a kick at it right out of the gate.
Billy and I were good friends. Again, remember, we grew up in an era where you had to go to basketball camps. Yeah. Man, I remember playing against Billy Orn at 5-star basketball camp at Holmesdale and Pittsburgh, and he was widely regarded as being one of the number one players in the country in my class. Right. Yeah, one publication had Billy Orns, one publication had Alonzo Mourning, and a different publication had Sean Kemp. as being the number one players in our class. I mean, those are three pretty damn good basketball players.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And then going down this, the following year, 1991, player of the game, Doug Smith, Virginia versus BYU. I think Sean Bradley had the record for most blocks in an NCAA game. There still stands today, I believe, with 14, I want to say.
14. Yep.
Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I remember that game. I remember us not realizing that he was 7'6", and we kept taking the ball inside to him, and he just kept blocking the shot. I still can't figure that out.
Yeah, I think he almost blocked my three when he was in the paint, and he took one step, and I'm like, pump fake, yo.
Yes, he had a game for the ages, man. He was on top of his game, and we were playing, literally, in their backyard. They had an advantage, and yeah, that was an uphill battle for us, but we gave it our best shot, and just
that's a rough seeding / scheduling, because we go to Salt Lake City to play 10, and we're seeded 7th.
Yeah.
And that was, if you remember that trip, it was just a weird trip because it's a different kind of city.
No question.
And we unfortunately played the same way.
Time zone, altitude. I mean, it was just
it was a weird spot.
Different factors, yeah.
I remember thinking this was commonplace too, because then a couple of years later, then it's Kansas and Kansas City, right? And that's like a lot of UVA on the road in the tournament for whatever reason that was. And then here's coming. I had you already stole my thunder on this one, because I remember you saying you went a bunch of visits and you thought about him. But what about this documentary? Did you watch this? Do you have a relationship with him still to this day?
Yeah. Christian and I probably talk maybe once or twice a year, and Christian is a misunderstood guy. Off of the court, I mean, he is a very down to earth, very caring person. He'll give you the shirt off his back, but when he step in between those lines, he becomes a beast. And he's just like any other competitor, man. He wants to win. He had a fire that burned inside of him, man, that was very intense. I respect the hell out of Christian, man, because I got the chance to see him up close and personal. And just like Billy Owens, Christian and I competed against each other, ever since the 9th grade. And I got a chance to spend some time with him, during the summer on the United States national team. And, we got a chance to spend, time against each other, in the NBA. I mean, he's a winner. And, but, he's a guy, man, that when he got on that court, by any means necessary.
Yeah, everyone hated him in a sense. Just the whole Duke thing took a whole nother meaning. I know everybody hated Ferry too. I feel like Christian Laettner brought it to a whole. He played into it really well. He embraced it. He did. He really did.
He got away with a lot of shit, man. I mean, he did, man. I wish I could have gotten away with half the stuff he did. Christian was he was like he was playing in the NBA. He was allowed 6 fouls. When I got off the bus in Durham, I had 3 fouls when I walked into the gym. It was different, but I mean, hey. That's part of the landscape. You got to understand it, and you just go out and compete.
So when we went up against Duke, was there a little extra something in it for you in terms of like that was your last school that you wanted to give it to them a little more, or was there more of a friendly?
Oh man, listen.
You want to bust their ass, right?
Man, this is. I love Coach K to death, and I told him, I said, listen, I want to be able to come to Duke. How much time would you guarantee, could I earn as a freshman? He said, you probably won't play as a freshman because, you won't be able to beat out Robert Brickey. And, man, that stuck with me. And every time we played, Duke, man, I just had some out for Brick, man. I mean, Brick is a good dude, nothing against him. But, man, that was intense motivation. And
that's awesome.
They had a great team. I mean, late after Brickey, then, came, they had Brian Davis, then Grant Hill. And, I mean, they were loaded with talent, man. But it was that always stuck in the back of my mind. Right. And fate would have it that, I broke the school scoring record at Duke. And in classic, Coach K fashion, after the game, he gave me the game ball, and it was special, man. It was.
I think he stopped the game, B, because he wanted to get that thunder, but I think he stopped the game and presented it to you, or he did it after the game.
It was right after the game, right before, as we were going through the layup line, he took going through the line to shake hands after the game, he took the mic, made the announcement, presented me with the game ball right before I headed back into the locker room, and it was good, man. The Duke fans, they were awesome, so I enjoyed that moment.
Game respects game. And then here's this next one. Virginia. This is I was telling Fresh before. This is the first time I saw Superman with kryptonite. This is the Florida State game. We're up. We're down 1, 2 seconds left. You're at the free throw line, and you missed both of them. Do you remember this?
Oh, I remember it vividly. Every time we played against Houston in the NBA, Sam Cassell will always say when I went to the free throw line, "Hey, Steph, you remember them free throws at UVA?" He would always say that, man, for 10 years. For 10 years in the NBA, he always reminded me of that. But, man, I tell you, when I got fouled, I thought the game was over.
Same here. I remember it so vividly.
Yeah,
oh, my goodness, man. The first one, it just it was like and popped out. And I shouldn't have changed. I said, okay, all I got to do is just take just a little bit off, and it will be all nets. And when I took that little bit off, it caught the front iron of the rim, looped in and popped out. Man, I should have just stepped up there again, man. I thought the first one was good, but hey, man, you can't make them all.
Yeah.
If I could go back in time, I still would want to be the one who would take those shots at the end of the game. I remember what I remember most though. I remember going back to my to the house, and Jim Valvano and Jim Saunders were doing ESPN, and they said Bryant Stith, 90-something% free throw shooter. The chances of him missing, those free throws, and they had the odds up on this.
Right.
Man, I was good, man. After the game, man, I answered all of the questions by the media. Man, I was like, talking to my teammates. I'm saying, man, guys, I'm sorry, man. I let y'all down. But when I went back to the house and I saw ESPN and what they said, that's when I broke down and cried, man. I just let it all out. I just said, I can't believe it.
And then that season, obviously that's what led to 1992 NA champs. But talk about Selection Sunday. We talked to JJ about this. We talked to Junior about this. What was that day like for you? Like, do you remember it? For me as a fan, it was. What do you mean? There must be another like they forgot Virginia. What happened? Yeah, what were your thoughts?
We thought that we had the resume. I mean, playing in the toughest conference. I mean, if you look at how they let so many teams in off these big conferences into the tournament, and if you were to apply the same rules for selection today, back in 1992, there's no way that we shouldn't have been in that tournament. Right. And that's when we was just starting to hit our stride, and we just thought that we could have made a lot of noise in the tournament, if we had received the invitation. But again, fate has, its way of working things out. We went to the NIT. We were able to put together, 3 weeks of good basketball, and we ended up as the 1992 NIT champions.
B, can I ask you a question about then? Because we weren't thinking about it, teammates and homeboys, the whole thing. But were you already solidified, you think, as a lotto pick before the tournament started?
Absolutely not.
No, I wouldn't really thought so.
Well, look, after the NIT champions. I went through the process of selecting my agent. I got my agent counter early, and looking at all of the mock drafts, I was a mid 15 to late first round draft pick. And that's based off everything that I had done over my 4 years at the University of Virginia.
Right.
And they told me that I didn't have to go to Portsmouth. I had earned that right. But they told me that there was debate about whether or not I should attend the Orlando Classic, which was the second pre-draft camp before you got to Chicago. Right. And he said, Bryant, Jeff Austin, he was my agent, represented me for 10 years, very knowledgeable. He said, man, if you go, he said, you could lose potentially $1 million. I said, how the hell are you going to lose something you don't have? I said, if I go there and play well, I could win me $1 million. I could earn $1 million. And he was like, yeah. So when I went there, man, I went there on a mission. And one of the things that helped me was the fact that the tournament was only a week and a half after our last game at Madison Square Garden. So I was in great shape.
Yep.
My jumper was clicking. I mean, I had a great feel. And I went down to that camp, man, and I just absolutely turned it out. And I was named MVP. And that's when I jumped, into the lottery.
And did you have the Lexus yet, or was that after the camp when we got that fly Lexus that we all got to enjoy?
No, I did hear him say you could lose $1 million, so I was rocking the V24.
That's right. And so it must have been after
20.
Orlando.
You remember that BLS 20?
Yes, sir. A lot of rides in that thing.
And then here's the next photo. We haven't talked about Coach Holland, but I remember his last game. You were very emotional, and you talked about that. Like you couldn't concentrate. His last one. Talk about what he meant to you. Why what was that process like when he decided he was going to step down?
Coach Holland's definition of a Virginia gentleman, man. I mean, class act all the way around, knows how to press the right buttons in order to get the most out of his players. He was an inspiration to me. A lot of people came down, to Lawrenceville, Virginia, rural Southside Virginia, but not many people gave me an inspiration and be able to see a vision beyond myself. And he was able to paint that picture for me. And I love Coach Holland to death, man. I mean, he started recruiting me when I was the age of 13. I used to go to all of the UVA elite camps, teen camps, and just built a great relationship with him. And to this day, we talk often, and, it's very meaningful, the things that, Coach Holland would do. Whenever Coach Holland was driving up Interstate 95, he would always stop by, whether I was there or not, and just say hello to my mom and dad, because we only lived 9 miles from Interstate 95. I mean, that's the type of relationship.
That's awesome.
That's the type of person that he was. And those aren't the things that people see, but he's just a giant of a man.
And then when he decided to leave, was there any conversations? Like, when did you hear about it? How was that conversation when he told you, I'm stepping down?
Oh, he didn't tell me. And that's what hurt so bad, because I found out at the last minute. They called a team meeting, and they said that Coach Holland was not coming back. He explained why. I understood why. It had nothing to do with the team. It had nothing to do with basketball. It had everything to do about respect and what he had built since he had been at the University of Virginia, and he felt disrespected because they were moving other projects ahead of UVA basketball, and UVA basketball put our athletic program on the map. Right. And when he explained it to us, he had my blessings. I stood up for him. As a matter of fact, I had told people that I was going to transfer within the department. And I had several conversations with athletic director Copeland, and I shared my heart, I shared my feelings, I shared who I wanted to be the next coach. And
that's awesome.
I stayed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then
So who do you want to be the next coach, B?
Who was your choice?
You played for him.
I know, man. But I told JJ that, like, because we didn't talk about it that much, but we didn't want some new dude that doesn't know us and know our system. We wanted to keep the continuity and, you know, the flow of what we had going, I think. You agree with that? That's how we looked at it.
Well, look, man, I went into his office and I just shared my feelings, man. I was very open. I was very honest. I was very transparent. And I think he felt my passion. Now, whether that persuaded him to hire, you know, Coach Jones, I don't know. But, you know, I was just very honest, man. And, you know, I didn't hold back. You know, I talked to a lot of people before I went in that meeting, and I was prepared. I had my statistics, and, you know, I knew, you know, what this team had, and I knew the impact that Coach Jones had with the recruiting of the team. And, you know, I just presented that all to, you know, Athletic Director Copeland. And, you know, again, I have no idea how that played in his decision, but, you know, we were very fortunate to have Jeff Jones as our coach
For sure.
that following season.
And then obviously he's head coach with you now at ODU. But after you go on and having your NBA career, how often would you check in with the program at that point to see how we were doing?
I mean, I stayed in contact, you know, with the guys. You know, I was on my grind, man. I would come back and I would play. I would come back in the summers and I would play with the guys. And you know, Anthony Oliver was like one of my best friends for life. And the Leatherwoods was still there. You know, I was always calling back Miss Johnson, you know, finding out, you know, what was going on with the program, and she was keeping me up to date. You know, so I stayed very, very connected with the program, you know, in my own way. But I didn't want to be a nuisance, man. And I got a chance. I had broken my foot my rookie year. I got a chance to come back and watch the guys play. And, you know, it was just special, man. UVA holds a dear place in my heart. And I love those guys that was on the team. And I watched every game I possibly could when I was in Denver. You know, although the games came on at 5 o'clock, you know, I had to hurry home to get home to watch those games, but man, it was worth it.
And then we'll come back to Virginia in a bit, but this is a picture of you shaking David Stern's hand. What was your NBA draft day like?
Man, it was unbelievable. My draft day was in Portland. You know, I look at the draft today and what it was back there. It wasn't the glitz and the glamour.
Right.
You didn't have the entourage and stuff following you. You know, actually, when I think back on it, it was just me and my dad that went to the draft. My mom said, look, I've missed enough time from work, you know, chasing behind you and this NIT. I can't miss any more days of work. You know, so man, I tell you, man, if I could go back and do it all over again, man, I have my entire family out. But that wasn't the trend back then, you know. But I was so excited, man, and you know, I just could see the future in front of me, and you know, I was just excited, man, to start going up against a lot of the guys that I admired and I had seen in TV and in the NBA. So I was very focused at this moment.
Now, was there a welcome to the NBA moment that you had on the court, or was it a seamless integration for you?
No, I think it was a seamless integration because, again, I signed my contract early. I went out and I started working with the team a month before the season started. So we had pickup games. I was playing really well. I knew who my competition was. So I would sit back. I was analyzing their game. I was playing against them, see what worked and what didn't. The biggest transition I had was, posting up in the NBA was different than posting up in college. I had to learn the defensive rules because instead of shooting over Ted Jeffries, I was shooting over Dikembe Mutombo. So that was like my welcome to the NBA moment. I had to figure that part out. But once I did, I was good.
Yeah, you had a good practice partner in him.
And you really had your jumper going at that point. I remember during the season, especially your last year, and then after the season, we were working on getting the range, and you responded as always.
Yeah, but it was a little bit different though, man. That distance really made a difference. The way I got my shots. My first 3 years, I struggled with shooting the three, but after my third season, then I started feeling more comfortable, playing away from the basket, shooting it behind the three-point line. And then that's when I felt I became a complete NBA player.
This next photo, you with the now C captain on your jersey. I remember when that came through, and it was very early in your career that you were named captain. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was my second year, man, and man, I worked so hard in practice, man. I mean, there was nobody in the Denver Nugget program that outworked me. They may work as hard, but they didn't outwork me. And the coaches recognized that. My teammates recognized that. And when they came to me, with the idea, I was like, man, you want me to lead this locker room of men? They said, Bryant, you already lead with your performance and practicing on the court. Right. And, after I talked to Dan Issel and the rest of the coaching staff, I felt comfortable. And then as I matured into that role, I embraced that leadership role, and I became more vocal, and I became the voice of the locker room.
That's awesome. I always wondered how that went, because I was like, man, you're still early second year, and then like you said, people have family, people are grown men out there. How did they receive it? I imagine very well, just because of the man that you are, but I imagine it's always tricky.
You got to remember now, the NBA wasn't set up like it is today.
Right.
But I mean, when we got to the NBA, when I was drafted in 1992, there was no strength coach. There was no conditioning program. You basically had to do everything on your own. So what I did was I basically took Coach Gamble's strength and conditioning program to the Denver Nuggets. And I said, man, where's your weight room? Their weight room was probably the size of a coach's office at Coach Bennett's office at the University of Virginia. And, man, I remember I would get guys after practice. We would go in. We would do Coach Gamble's lift. I had guys, man, going out. We were running. We were doing all of the things that we did at UVA in Denver. And I think people just took notice of that. Now, toward the end of my career, that's when they hired a strength and conditioning coach. That's when, they made it mandatory to come back early to get in shape. But when I first got to the league, none of that was in place. And I kind of put some parameters in place for our team, for our players to follow. And I think people respected that.
You were the strength and conditioning coach, basically. That's crazy. And then everyone still talks about this today, the 8-1 upset.
The Rain Man.
The Rain Man.
I'd
like the vision is Mutombo on the ground with the ball, but what do you remember?
I remember playing against Seattle and them dominating us during the season. And the first two games of that series, during the year, we were getting better and better and better. And we thought that we had a chance to play with them. We didn't know we had a chance to beat them. But when we looked at the film from the first two games, we saw all of the mistakes that we made, and we were still right there with an opportunity to win the last 2 minutes of the game. So we said, look, game 3, we have nothing to lose. It's lose or go home. Let's just see if we can put together 48 minutes. Let's not bow down to them the last 2 minutes of the game. And we won game 3 in Denver. Man, that gave us a little momentum. We won game 4. We was like, oh, shit, there ain't no pressure on us going back to Seattle. They all had the brooms out when we left game 2. Like, we were about to get swept. So we just said to ourselves, man, our motto was, if we could stick with them the first 8 minutes of the game and let them know that we aren't going anywhere, we could transfer the pressure to them in the second half. And that's exactly what we were so gassed in game 5 after the first quarter. Everybody asked to sub out. That's how hard we were playing. And then our bench I remember Robert Pack had the game of his life.
Right.
He came off the bench and just lifted us. And we came back in, we settled down, the starters settled down. And man, we shocked the world. We made history.
And then this next one. This is the roster. And we were just talking about this before. This is quite a roster. You got there was Chris Jackson at the time. Shout out Laurel Bennett, who and then Bison Daly, Brian Williams, who rest in peace. Obviously LaFonso. Tom Hammonds, who used to eat us up in the ACC. I remember him. And then you got Mark May. I mean, that's a squad. And then Dikembe, Robert Pack, Rodney Rogers was a rookie, was a beast too. And then
Reggie
obviously
Williams.
you and Reggie Williams.
Oh man, this team is primed to win in the NBA. But management got a little antsy when the following year we advanced to the NBA playoffs and lost to San Antonio in 3 games, and they broke this team up. I think if they had stuck with this team one more year and paid Dikembe, I think that this team could have at least made it to the Western Conference Finals, because we had that X factor in Dikembe.
Right.
Dikembe could play Hakeem Olajuwon one-on-one. He could play against all of the top centers in the West one-on-one, which allowed us to extend our defense to the 3-point line. And with that weapon, he allowed us to change the game. But they just gave up on us, I think 1 year too quick.
So as a kid in Charlottesville, the way to keep up with this was every morning run out to the paper and hope the late game made the box score. There was no league pass. There was none of that. That was literally how I kept up with all which was I somehow was still a huge fan just because of the box score, as weird as that is for the.
I remember, I remember I had to buy my mom a satellite like we were trying to look at the moon in order for her to watch the game.
Yeah, there was no league pass. The struggle was real, man.
Nah, it was none of that.
I mean, this is how crazy I was. I would because if it was a late game, the Daily Progress would not put it in the paper, and then so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. I'm gonna get, and then it wasn't in the paper the next day. I'd have to write them and be like, yo, you forgot the late game from the. They're probably like, this Asian kid, he better stop giving us work, because I was literally like, it kept happening. I'm like, yo, you guys, there's a late game. At least put it in the next. I don't know. We should talk to them about that.
No, that's a crazy roster. Shout out to my boy Darnell Mee, by the way. I grew up playing with him. Be nice.
Yeah,
Darnell.
I know, man. I went to his wedding.
Was it in Australia or here in Chattanooga?
No, it wasn't Chattanooga. It was in a small town in Tennessee. I can't remember which town it was.
Cleveland. He's from Cleveland.
Cleveland. That's exactly where it was. From Cleveland, Tennessee.
We used to get them every year in the sub-state, the round before the state. First year, we drilled them, demolished them. Next year, they got us back, last second shot. But Darnell was nice.
He was nice. He was the backup. He was like the third point guard on our team. It was Mahmoud, it was Robert Pack, and then it was Darnell Mee.
Right, because Pack emerged as a big-time player.
I remember him. Dunk contest. He was another one primed.
Hey, yo, Fresh, you see the John Gamble shoulders, man?
I was about to say we had the best in the business. So be nice. We talk about this all the time. Like young dudes now, even when we played, I tell everybody when I played, I got the most out of myself. But there was no secret. Like nobody worked harder than you. Nobody worked harder than Bryant Stith. John Crotty worked his ass off. June, Corey. And I remember you and A.O. spending hours with John Gamble after a long practice, after a game, and I'm just going in there trying to be down. Trying to hang out. I'm probably like doing curls and you're probably like doing real shit. But it's no secret, B, and I always respected you a lot for that, just as an example of hard work.
Yeah, I was gonna
everything.
say you mentioned Michael Jordan earlier as a guy that you looked up to, but going up against him, you always talked about one of your challenges guarding Michael Jordan. What was that like? Now with Last Dance out, he's all the rage. Everybody's coming out with Jordan quotes, but would love to hear your thoughts on going up against.
Everything
Okay.
that you saw on TV and read about was real, man. I mean, this dude was a player, bro. And what I tell everybody, man, is, and you know, I got a chance to play against them all. He's the only dude, man, that I basically, man, you know, stared at the ceiling at night, man, before we played. You know, it's going down tomorrow, man. You know, hey man, I didn't have those same thoughts, you know, with Kobe and
Right.
Dumas and Mitch, and you know, I slept comfortably, man. But when Mike was coming to town, you were in Chicago, it got real. And Mike, man, the way I describe it is, man, he had all the moves that Kobe Bryant had. He had the hops like Vince Carter, and he was as quick as AI. You put that shit together, man,
Yeah.
you got the greatest ever, bro. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Yep. Not even close, I think.
yeah. I think
I don't
for
know.
people our age, it's gonna be Jordan. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to.
But
compare.
Doug, you see, I got him on the pump fake, baby.
You
I
do,
got
you
him
got
on
him
the
up.
pump fake.
That's right where you want him. Just go right up into that chest right now.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
all
And I probably didn't even get the call either.
No,
No
of course
chance.
not.
I was gonna say that's a hand one.
I think
That's
Christian
it,
Laettner got
hey.
calls. This
No, they
guy.
probably had that. They had that Carolina ref in the game too. Even with
So
the
what
Bulls.
about watching The Last Dance for you these last few weeks? Have you been watching it like everyone else and reliving those moments?
Man, you know, when I went to Chicago, and back then they had a hotel, and on one floor they had all the NBA teams, and any team that was interested in you, you would have your little card, and you would go into that all of the doors in the hotel room were open, so they would have like the Atlanta Hawks, Boston Celtics, Chicago Bulls, all the way down the hall.
Uh-huh.
So you would have the teams who were interested in interviewing you, and the Chicago Bulls was one of the teams that wanted to interview me. And I went in the room, and there was Jerry Krause and, you know, the coaches, and they said, Stith, you know, we love you a lot, you know, but we don't think we are able to draft you. And I was like, sir, if you don't mind, I said, I'm a little confused. You know, if you like me, you know, why wouldn't you take the chance of drafting me? They said, because Michael Jordan destroys the confidence of any rookies that we've brought in. They said that we have to bring, in the two-guard position, we have to bring in a veteran, somebody that can handle the deadly onslaught by Jordan. And I was sitting there, I was like, man, this motherfucker crazy. And that stuck with me, right? That stuck with me.
Yeah, how can it
And
not?
when I watched The Last Dance and just saw how intense Jordan was in practice every single day, I wondered to myself, man, if I was thrust into that situation as a freshman, could I have handled that? Because this was after they had won their first championship.
Right.
And he was hungry, man. And, you know, could he have waited for me to develop? You know, those were the things that I was more interested in, the practices and things that were going on. And I could just see myself having that conversation with Krause. And I wanted to prove to myself that, yeah, I could have played on that team. So when I looked at it, that's the lens I was looking at it through.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was your thought? You could have done it. You would have helped guide them.
Of course.
Oh man, I definitely thought I could have done it, but
I thought you would have fit in really well with him personally.
Yeah, no doubt, man. But it would have been, I wouldn't have been great at the beginning. But I'm the type of person that's not gonna quit. But I thought that as the season went along, I would have studied, I would have learned, and I think I would have had a better and more prosperous NBA career.
Right.
Because being in Denver, we were a young team.
Right.
We had nobody to
The framework
draw
wasn't
a
there.
team.
Yeah.
And everything that I earned in the NBA, man, I earned on my own.
Right.
And I look at, other players like Cuba Davis, who had a better NBA career because he played with Patrick Ewing. I look at Rick Fox, who had a better NBA career because he played with Shaq and Kobe. I look at Robert Horry, who had a better NBA career because he played with the Dream. Damn, man, give me one of them players, man. Maybe I got 6-7 rings.
Right.
You follow what I'm
Right.
saying?
Absolutely.
But that's just how it goes, man. And but in my quiet time now, those are the things that I reflect upon.
Yeah, because to me, it would have been the perfect compliment because Jordan was about the game, right? And it seemed like I wouldn't say the guys he picked on were those that weren't as serious about the game, right? And
those guys that weren't committed and weren't dedicated.
Yeah.
You ain't had to worry about me drinking and smoking. I didn't do that. Man, I don't go clubbing a lot. I don't do that. So man, I was all in. I was invested, man, in my career, and it would have been beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah,
we have this one segment where what if Jordan went to Virginia because he talked about it, but maybe we need to do what if Stith went to the Bulls with Jordan? Jeez, we need that segment. That's crazy.
Sure. I'm starting to. I know he passed away, but I'm starting to question Jerry Krause's intelligence after watching The Last Dance and hearing that he thought Bryant Stith was gonna lose his confidence playing with MJ.
Well, look, you can't argue with the man. They won 6 championships, man.
No, I'm not arguing with that.
Man.
I guess for him, it's a gamble, right? If he's like, hey, just in broad speaking terms, if Jordan tears down every rookie, I don't want to bring in a player that Jordan is just going to hurt the confidence. I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you need to.
I didn't. Again, being just coming into the league, as a rookie, man, you just don't understand what he's saying.
Right.
Because you just haven't seen that before. And,
right.
The dude is questioning your manhood. Man, what are you talking about?
He definitely did not watch the Notre Dame game. Be nice, or a lot of those games.
Here's the next photo.
Oh,
this is Chris Jackson, hands over. But we were talking about this earlier. He was the first guy to really protest the national anthem. This
is the Colin Kaepernick of our era, man.
Yep.
And what's funny about this, man? Mark Moore had been doing that all year, and he had been doing it the year before.
Right.
But it took one fan to notice, and that fan called into a radio show and made a big deal about it. And so management went to Mark Moore, and they was like, look, Mark Moore, all you have to do is just pray in the tunnel. They will turn the lights off, walk out in the tunnel, pray, and when they turn the lights back on, just walk back out on the floor. And Mark Moore said, no, I did it all last year. I've been doing it all season. I'm not changing.
Right.
And, man, just one thing snowballed into the next where they say, why are you praying during the flag? And I remember him going on Oprah and saying that the flag represented tyranny and oppression. And it's funny that we just finished talking about Jordan because the next game we played was in Chicago. And man, when we arrived at the hotel, it was about 1:00 in the morning. I want to say we had just played Milwaukee and we were coming in town late. Man, it probably was 2,000 people outside of our hotel. There were so many news cameras there that it looked like broad daylight from all of the cameras lights that were outside our hotel. Wow. And we didn't understand the gravity of the statement until we arrived at Chicago at that hotel. They had the VFW. They were out there. And when we got off the bus everybody was singing the national anthem, man. It was ridiculous. And then when we got in the gym that night, man, that place was rocking. It was electric. Still to this day, I have never heard the national anthem sang that loudly as it was in Chicago Stadium that game.
Yeah, I remember that. That was so crazy.
Yeah.
That
We
whole
were traveling with Secret Service agent with nickel-plated Glocks because we were receiving death threats and the team was receiving death threats.
wow.
And that's when it got serious. At first, the anger was directed at Mark Mood. And then the anger went from being directed at Mark Mood to being directed at the Nuggets. And that's when Mark Mood's teammates and we felt unsafe.
Yeah.
And, that's when we addressed it with management. And then they eventually ended up trading Mark Mood to Sacramento.
I think that for me, for me personally, I just remember hearing that and thinking about, okay, this is a free country, and yet how come this guy can't do? That was at that age where I was just like questioning a lot of stuff, and that was just like, wait a minute, it's a free country, and yet this guy can't do this. Like, I'm confused. Anyway, that was just really interesting and eye-opening, I think, for the NBA. And people don't really talk about this one as much, which I feel like it should make its rounds again.
Yeah. If he had never made that statement on Oprah, then I think he would have been okay.
And then this next one. Mama D rocking
Mama D.
your Stith jersey. Did you see that? You saw this because you responded to him with it. But what were your thoughts when you saw it? Like old school meets new school, Virginia love.
Oh man, that's just love, man. I know that, man. These guys right here, man, had such a platform at the time, man. They were number one in the country. They were kicking behind, and for him to recognize, my jersey by putting it on, man, that was just special, man. I mean, that's what makes UVA basketball special, man. It's a brotherhood, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
That's pretty cool. And then here
he doesn't fill it out as nice as you do. Be nice. You need to get that John Gamble working.
Here's this next photo. You go to the Celtics, and we didn't even talk about you taking less money to stay in Denver. We'll leave that one for later. But you come into Stith, and then there's the Stith jersey, Celtics green, Rick Pitino, and then now famous Heron with all of his talks. What do you remember about this moment and this is probably an interesting moment in your life, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it really was, and it's interesting because the Denver Nuggets traded me to Boston from one of my old teammates, Robert Pack. That's the irony of it all. And but going to Boston, it was great because I understood the history of the game, and I had played with a former teammate whose father is an absolute legend, for the Celtics.
Yep.
And just having an opportunity to be able to go there and because I had a relationship with John Havlicek, I had a relationship with his son, I thought it was pretty cool. Chris Herron was a friend of mine. He had his struggles. We had, deep conversations when we were in Denver, and I try to be a mentor for him, but he was fighting something a lot more, a lot deeper than I could help him with. But he was a great guy. He had a big heart. You just hate to see a person like that, man, struggle with something off the court as deep as what he had to deal with.
Yo, B, I was always a Chris Herron fan, and I always heard, tell me if I'm wrong, that when he was with Denver, I think he said that was the best he'd ever been emotionally, with his issues, et cetera. I assume you were a big part of that. He said you guys really kept him close in Denver in one of his talks.
Well, at the time, our general manager came in and explained the deal. They explained to what happened to him in college, and they told us that, they wanted us to keep an eye on him. And, we tried to do that, man. And, you know, he shared some personal stories with me that really opened my eyes, man, because I had never, I didn't know anybody who dealt with drug abuse, and I didn't know of anybody, man, that had traveled that road. So when he opened my eyes to him, you know, I went and I did some reading and some research to equip myself to be able to better help him. And it just made me a better man, a better overall, you know, teammate. And, you know, we tried to be a great support system for Chris. And, man, and the dude could ball. I mean, oh, man, he could play, man. He was fearless, bro. I mean, and you could see, man, those days when he was well, man, he would go and practice, man, and he would kick ass. But you could see those days that, you know, he didn't have it all together, man. And it was like two totally different people, man. And just hate to see that he didn't have that balance in his life at that time.
But you talk about somebody who turned it into something positive.
Yes.
Now his message is out there, and he's sharing the story, and it's probably hitting a lot of people who are going through this, right? Especially at a time like this. So many people have, you know, issues, and mental addiction is just, I think, an issue in general, regardless of what it is.
Yes.
It's kind of cool to see him traveling the world and doing what he's doing to save the world.
Yes.
Here's this next one.
There they are. There they go.
Young. This is early.
Hey,
Talk
man,
about your decision. Go back. I remember you reading about you making the choice to go back and become a coach at Brunswick. And
I mean, when I left at the time, you had to understand what was going on around professional sports and with the families and stuff off of the field or off of the court. There were so many high-profile deaths of prominent athlete's son. I remember Dr. J had lost his son. They found him in the bottom of the lake. I remember Andy Reid, his sons had gotten put in jail because of drug addiction. And, you know, there were other incidents that were going on in Denver, you know, with the Broncos and with the Nuggets, where I was a part of. And my wife and I were having conversations, and we were like, you know, the most important thing to us were our kids, and we didn't want to see them go down that road. And because when I retired, Bernie Bickerstaff offered me a NBA assistant coach's job when he was with the Hornets. The Nuggets offered me a radio job, a TV job, and they also offered me if I wanted to be a part of their front office. So if I had just dove right into my professional journey right after I retired, then my kids would have been thrust into that pool of being at risk. And we didn't want that. So we decided to move back to Lawrenceville and provide a stable upbringing for Brandon, BJ, Bree, and Brooke, so they can grow up around family, grow up around grandmas and grandpas, and give them a solid foundation. And, you know, when I look at my kids, you know, today, man, I think we made the right choice. You know, man, I had made, you know, a lot of money, and, you know, how much is enough? And, you know, we just felt that the price of my family was worth more than having an all-American job.
Fresh has a story about when you were moving back home. What was that, Fresh?
Yeah, so I was told when you moved back home, did you build a house? Well, I've never been down.
Yeah, I
But
did.
I think you built a house. BJ was telling about the 100 acres he had to mow every day, etc. But one of your homeboys used to always be at Virginia. He's like, "Yo, Fresh, they're building this house down there, right? And the whole street thinks we're getting a super Walmart in Emporia, Virginia. That motherfucker's so big. They thought you were bringing a super Walmart. They're like, nah,
Hey,
that's just a stick house."
Don't believe that, man. They embellishing that story. Hey, look, man. I had, you know, playing in the NBA, you got a chance to see a lot of big homes, man. And if you were to build my house in New York City or Los Angeles, it would probably be $20 million. Man,
right, I get it.
When I have so many uncles and cousins who are contractors, everybody wanted to be a part, man. People just donated, man. They just donated their time, man, and the services to help build my house, man. It was
crazy.
It was like a family event, man. And I mean, it was great, man, because everybody felt like, okay, man, you know, Bryant did it, man. This is our way to repay him. And man, I'm telling you, man, they saved me so much money. And you know, that's home, man. That's one of the reasons why I wanted my kids to be able to move back so they can get rooted and grounded and have that upbringing that Barbara and I had.
Yeah, so, and BJ told us a story too. He's like, I was asking about growing up in the NBA. Did he realize it? He's like, man, I didn't really realize it until we moved to Cleveland. And then I knew my dad's job was, and he was like, then I figured out, damn, B. He's like, you're the cheapest dude in the whole NBA. Like, my dad's a pro basketball player. He's like, I'm wearing Brandon's, like, you know, old pants and shit until I'm like 15 years old.
Hey, French, you know how we do it, man. We got a summer job in June, and that money lasts us throughout the year.
Yo, man, Brian, that money might as well have been an NBA contract for us back then.
Hey, man,
$5,000 in your pocket.
But man, you saw so many guys, man, that just went through so much money in the NBA, and we were determined that weren't gonna be us. I mean, I'm just fortunate, man, because essentially, you know, for almost 20 years, man, I didn't work, and it was because Barbara and I, man, we built a nest egg where we could just go back and take care of our family. And man, we survived the tech crash in early 2000, the depression in
My bad on that one.
2008, and now we're going through another depression, man. So, man, we've been blessed, man. God has given us favor, and I'm just thankful for that.
I was going to say, walk us through Brandon first getting recruited by UVA, and I know the pressure of another Stith going to UVA. What was that like for you in terms of them making choices and thinking things through? BJ talked extensively about it, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Man, you know, I ruined my kids, man. Because when they were growing up, the only thing that they wore, they didn't wear Nuggets, they didn't wear Boston Celtics, and they didn't wear Cleveland Cavaliers. They were representing the Cavaliers, UVA,
right.
Blue and orange.
That's right.
And every summer we came back, we will always go and visit the Leatherwoods. We will always walk around grounds. We would show them where I live. We would show them everything on campus, on grounds. And then what happened was, as they got older, then it became, man, that's where I want to go to school. And Brandon, I said, as Brandon got older, I said, Brandon, it's not about where Dad went to school. It's about where you can go and create your own legacy. And Brandon understood that better. BJ probably had a box of letters. He never opened them. I mean, NC State, ACC, SEC, A10. BJ didn't open one letter because it was only one school he wanted to go to, and that was the University of Virginia. Mm-hmm. And I tried so bad, BJ, don't close your options. Please keep your options open. And then he started throwing my words back at me. Dad, you said anything you wanted and in life, you got to work for. But you don't believe in me? You don't think I'm good enough to go to UVA? He started throwing all of that back in my And then I realized, I was like, man, if I talk this kid out of going to UVA, he would hate me forever. So basically, you know, we had to let BJ make his own decision, and he did. It was a great decision for him at the time. He found out that once he got there, that, you know, the reasons he chose UVA didn't outweigh what was close to his heart. He wanted to play, he wanted to be out on the court, and he wanted to have a chance to ball. So he made a decision to leave, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I know that couldn't be easy for you to go through as alma mater, and then you're dealing with blood now. It's just, that's super complicated, and I think people underestimate that piece.
B, I got a question, man, because like you played from day one at Virginia, right? And I think anywhere you went, you would have played. I don't care what Coach K said. So you never really went through that struggle. A guy like me, playing behind Crop, playing behind Corey, trying to get minutes is different. Did you understand that fully, you think, for your kids, or was that
I
harder
did.
for you to get because
No,
you know,
I
you
did.
What you went through.
Look, Fresh, the last thing I wanted to, there were two things that I didn't want to do. I didn't want my kids to go to UVA because I knew the expectations and the
Right.
pressure that would be placed upon them. But
it's a lose?
I had created a monster because only thing they ever watched, they went to a football game every year at UVA when we were home before we went back to whatever city I was playing in. They
Yep.
always went to at least one UVA basketball game. They only had orange and blue in their closet. So I almost brainwashed them, and that was my fault. Secondly, I knew going to the University of Virginia that, listen, they had Malcolm Brogdon at BJ's
Right.
position. Brandon's position was loaded. I was like, and what I did was I made a list of questions. I said, what's most important to you? Is playing time most important? Because that's not going to be guaranteed your first couple of years at UVA. I asked them, I said, is winning important to you? Brandon told me the most important thing to him was playing. He didn't care if he played on a good team or a bad team. He could not sit on the bench. So
Yep.
when Brandon made his decision, it was his ability to get on the court as a freshman as quickly as possible. So BJ wanted to go to the highest level. The University of Virginia gave BJ everything that he ever wanted in his college decision. But once they got to campus, Brandon realized, he went to East Carolina, he realized that winning was more important to him than he had given it credit.
And you
And
realize, yep.
yes, Old Dominion was in the same conference with East Carolina, and we beat that ass twice. And he said, Dad, you better get me out of here. Can I come play with Old Dominion? With BJ,
He threw the towel in. I'm in,
he
Dad.
put
I'm
it
in.
down there. With BJ,
And JJ's trying to get everybody to Old Dominion.
everybody, and Coach Jones,
Tennis,
we
swimming,
got a place
basketball.
for you, big fella. We got a place for you, So Brandon, that decision was easy. And then Brandon helped recruit BJ. Brandon was like, BJ, I'm having the time of my life. I'm playing. We winning. We having a good time. You're not playing at UVA. I didn't have to do anything. Brandon did everything. And Brandon was the one who approached me about BJ and shared to me BJ's feeling. BJ told us he loved everything about UVA except for the 40 minutes on game day. He said he just can't take it. And
Yep,
when he
get it.
told me that, I went from being a coach to being a father and being able to rescue my son.
That's awesome. Yeah, and he talked about he's like, obviously he came on our podcast. He's like, I love UVA. I love UVA. What are you talking about? And like, it's still part of him, which is like really, really cool.
Coach Bennett and them were terrific, man. I mean, I got so much respect for what they have done for that program. So I'm just gracious, man, that of everything that he's done for my family and for the basketball program.
Here's this next photo, before and after. I know you had a little scare with your health there for a while. You said you got back in shape. You've been working on it. Where are you with that now? I know you had a
man. When I look at that person on the left, man, you just got comfortable, man. Things. When I got here to Old Dominion, I didn't have a routine, a regimented schedule. And, I made every excuse. The reason why I can't work out on the road because I'm recruiting, I'm scouting, I got games. Because as a college basketball coach, if you don't make time for yourself, that's what will happen. And, it took a health scare, my blood pressure going through the roof, and me had to go to the emergency room for me to have that realization. And once I had that realization, then that's what you got on the right.
That's awesome. And then NASCAR. Back in the day, I guess it was 2004, you took part in local, is it Hermie Sadler's team? Is that how that worked?
Hermie and I grew up together. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
my dad was, very good friends and worked for his father. And Hermie is a huge North Carolina fan. And I'm a huge UVA fan, obviously. And, we always go back and forth. But Hermie had a very successful entry into NASCAR, was Rookie of the Year. And, once I retired, he wanted me to team up with him and be a part of his ownership team. And that's how I got into the business. And, I got into it and, I lasted for a little while. But once I got into coaching, I just didn't have the time to be able to devote, to the time demands, what they were expecting. So I had to bow out gracefully. And I'm glad I did, man, because, basketball is in my blood, and NASCAR was just been something to do. But I was thankful for that opportunity.
Yeah, with all that's going on in NASCAR now today, wow, it's kind of crazy with the banning of Confederate flags, and the world is changing. And then this next one, U-Haul going down. Where were you? Do you remember this? I think you got an invite. Was it to?
Yeah, I was there, man.
Yeah.
Tear kind of rolled down my eye. Fresh. We got a lot of buckets up in there, didn't we, man?
A lot of buckets in that piece. Got that
we
right.
had a lot of great pickup games in there, man. In the summertime, just so many memories, man. You just hate to see it.
Yeah. A lot of time in the hot tub. Shit, we lived in that piece, B.
No doubt.
That arena. That was our spot.
Yeah. As a strange at times, as we're the old is replaced with the new, which is where this next photo. This is UMBC beating Virginia. What were your thoughts when that happened? Reaction? What did you watch it? Did you see it? Did you react right away, or was it a?
I was kind of pissed, man, because if you remember the analysts, man, everybody, man, was basically talking it up. UVA, possibly could be the first number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed, and what it did, man, I think it just put undue pressure on the players, man, because if UVA were to play that game 10 times, they would win 9 times out of 10. That just happened to be the game that they lost.
Right.
But man, I'm telling you, man, fate has a strange way of working things out, man. And, nobody could have been as low as probably those players, man. I mean, the agony of defeat. And to see where, man, that team rose to a year later, man, that's what movies are made of, man. And it's a testament to Coach Bennett, how he held that program together. It's a testament to the players, their willingness, man, to humble themselves and get back and work their ass off to be able to get to the mountaintop. I mean, there are so many lessons for people to learn from this UVA story. And I'm just glad to be a small part of it.
That's the next.
Yes.
And my question for you is, I know it's disappointing to have BJ go to UVA and not get playing time. And that's your alma mater. And then now you've got that entangled with this. And how, this got to be super complicated. And I get, but your relationship with UVA doesn't change in terms of how all the fans love you and support you. Your name's in the rafters. But how do you untangle all of that in terms of this championship? Where were you in your mind? Because I know you were there in Minneapolis. My brother texted me, was like, "Oh my God, I just saw Bryant down in the lobby." But how was that experience for you? Bittersweet.
How come nobody texts somebody they just saw Doug Smith in the lobby, man? It's always got to be Bryant. It's always got to be Ralph.
Bryant Stith.
Well, look, man. Hey, TW, the best way I can explain it, man, is this way. My experiences at UVA were my experiences. BJ's experiences at UVA were his. I'm always going to be there, for my son. If a UVA fan is going to ask me to choose between UVA basketball and my family, then UVA basketball is going to lose every time.
Right.
That's my blood.
Right.
I hope people can separate the two. I don't have any ill feelings toward Coach Bennett, Jay Willie, who was a teammate of mine, Sanchez, Coach McKay. I love all those guys, and when I see those guys, I respect them. Those guys have a job to do. They made a decision for their basketball program that they thought was best for them, okay? We made a decision as a family that we thought was best for BJ. And the irony of this whole thing is Coach Bennett now we're in Minneapolis, but so was BJ. He was a part of the NABC All-Star game. They both had a productive weekend. They both enjoyed the hell out of the weekend. So it's a win-win for Coach Bennett and UVA basketball. It was a win-win for BJ and the Stith family.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
And then this next one, all of the players at UVA kneeling for injustice. This was obviously prior to the rally in Charlottesville. We talked about with Chris Jackson, guys kneeling. What were your thoughts on that? Did you see this when this happened? And VJ wasn't on the team at the time, but
yeah, I mean, I did see it, and I just said, man, damn, man, how things have changed, because if they had done that back in 1992, shit would have been a little bit different. Because I remember I shot a free throw. That supposed to have been shot by Matt Blunden. The referee told me to go to the line. That's exactly what I did. And when Dean Smith brought it to the referee's attention, it was too late. And I remember people wanted to kick me out of school because I had violated the honor code. And I see players like this taking a stand. Man, 20 years ago, people in Charlottesville, people would be turning over in their graves. They wouldn't allow for that. So I can see that we have made a lot of progress in 20 so years. And I'm glad to see that these young men are making a change and using their voice to utilize the platform that they have to be able to make a change. And I applaud them for it. It's just a different social climate today than it was in the past.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then this last one, these are the guys marching on our storied university.
Yeah,
the neo-Nazi. Where were you when you heard of this? What were your thoughts?
Man, I was right in front of the TV and I couldn't believe, man. I could not believe what I was actually seeing. And all I could think about was if I was in Charlottesville, because I was roommates with football players and I knew how those guys, acted. And man, it would have been some confrontations, man. you know what I'm saying? Because
yeah, for sure.
It was a lot of that we felt, back when I was in school, but it was hidden, and we were talking about it as student athletes back then. For that to happen on our campus, and I can remember just being associated with the friends on grounds that I knew, a lot of players would have gone been right in the middle of all of that.
Right.
And, it could have been a lot different. But
that's awesome. And then the last question I had for this little series, didn't have a photo for it, but we talked to JJ about you moving on and having your own program at some point. Where is your head at with that? Is that something, is a goal or aspiration, or are you open to obviously NBA? Is it college? Like, is there a certain thing that you're looking at, or is it all the options open and you just take them as you see them? Or
look, man, all of my options are open right now. I'm learning from one of the best in the business. Coach Jones has won over 500 games as a head coach. Coach Jones changed my life when I was a young man at the University of Virginia. Him helped recruit me to Charlottesville, and he's changing my life now. He's invested in my career as a man for over 40 years. And, that cannot be overlooked.
right.
I don't care about, where that opportunity may come. All I want to do is continue to help Coach Jones do the best job possible here at Old Dominion University. And whenever that chance comes, hopefully I'll be ready to be able to leave my mark on a college program in the game of basketball. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Fresh, you want to do you always have a question.
For my segment. So be nice. We do this every time. BJ absolutely passed. It's your criteria. It can be your best friend, the best player, whatever, but you're Mount Rushmore of Virginia basketball. And you get 5. It doesn't have to be the 5 positions, the 5 best dudes you think in the history of Virginia basketball.
And not include myself, right?
Nah, you if you don't include yourself, you're wrong. that's going to be on you.
Fresh, you know how I am, man. So why would you ask me a question like that? Why would you ask a question? If anybody knows me, why would you ask me a question like that?
Well, because everybody gets asked a question, and you're one of the main authorities on the right answer. Just so you know, Junior Burrow, I think made himself 4 out of the 5.
You know the difference between Junior and I. I'm gonna give you my 5, excluding Bryant Stith. Okay.
All right, that's fair.
I'm gonna say these are my 5: Ralph Sampson, Jeff Lamp, Malcolm Brogdon, Barry Parkhill, and
the 5th one's always a tough. And if you take too long, my head goes up on the mountain for the record.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to think of players back in the day. I'm trying to think of players. I'm struggling right now between Sean Singletary and Wally Walker. I would say one of those two.
Yeah, that's fair. That's legit.
Is this the first time that Bryant Stith is not on somebody's list?
The first time, yep.
Ralph and Bryant Stith, I think, are the 2 staples.
I want to introduce you to somebody else. This is little Bryant.
Hey, what's up, big guy? How you doing?
Say hi, dude. That's Bryant. That's who you're named after. Say hi.
Hey, man, listen, you brought tears to my wife's eyes when she saw your baby picture. How you doing?
That's who you're named after. You know that? That's Bryant.
How you doing, man?
What's your name? Spell your name for him.
Bryant.
How you spell it?
B-R-Y-N-T.
I love it. I love it. Bryant.
Yeah,
That's
3 years old?
3 years old this week.
Man, he gave his son 6 letters, Bryant, and he's spitting it at age 3. My son has 2 letters, age 5, and he can barely get the Y out.
Man, what y'all doing at the house, man?
We're trying, B. Work from home.
Listening to Look My No Hands.
Oh yeah, B. I hear him the other day. He's up on what's it called, Alexa or Siri? He's like, Alexa, play Look My No Hands. I'm like, my favorite upbringing. It's a good song, man.
Oh, we absolutely appreciate. This was an honor to be able to talk to you. You know that for me, it's extremely special. Thank you for taking the time.
No, this was great, man. I enjoyed it. Again, man, I'm sorry about the delay, man, but I told Fresh that I called Fresh up and told him it was about that time, man, that I had made it through my challenges and I was back focused. And thank you guys for having me on.
No.
I'll ask some tough questions too, bro. Y'all try to set it up.
They went deep a little bit, right?
Oh, no doubt, man. No doubt.
We try. I don't know how well we do, but we try.
We didn't have Mark on long today. Other stuff going on, but so his son Ty Jerome, obviously a national champion, one of the greats. Speaking of Mount Rushmore, you can make an argument. But since you're a basketball coach, he grew up coaching his kids, his sons, and very tough on him. BJ gave us a lot of coach kid stories, not dad's kids. And I want to let you know, Mark Jerome, since I've known him, he never thought Ty Jerome was going to get in the game at Virginia. He was just like, he's like, man, Fresh. He's like, dude, I hope he gets some playing time this year, whatever. And then we're at the finals. We're all out in Mini together. And it's like the final game. Like, dude, let's go. We're going to get it tonight. How's Ty? He goes, man, I just hope he gets to play tonight.
He did more than play. I can tell you that.
Yeah, he did. He
Yeah,
did
man.
all right.
I got a chance to see Kobe a lot last year too. I was recruiting a guy off the team named Michael Gray. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
I got a chance to see Kobe play a lot, man. He's a heck of a player, man. His body type is different than his brothers. But their game is so much alike, man. Passing the ball, shooting, making the right play.
Had a chance to work out with Ty, DeAndre, and Devin Hall for 6 weeks. So he actually starting to get better, starting to get a lot better. When he came
It's
back,
gotta help. I mean,
when
how
he
does that
came-
not
oh
help?
my gosh. When he came back and I worked out with him twice last week, I could not believe how strong he was. His shooting range is ridiculous now. I'm not saying he's a great player. I'm talking about where he's launching from.
But he's on his way, man. He's on his way.
We'll see.
You know?
Starting to get some offers, starting to get some interest, so we'll see what happens. If I don't have to play for school,
Yeah.
that's what it's about, right?
That's it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I got 4 kids. I'm blessed, man. I didn't have to pay a dime. Only thing we had to do was pay attention.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible
That
to
is.
have 4 kids and not have to pay
Yeah,
for school.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to shout out Mom, my girl Barbara Stith. By the way, she's lucky her name started with a B when you met her. Imagine
Well,
she'd
look,
be
it
the only
was
one
her
without a B.
idea to name all these daggone kids with B's, man. I get so confused when I get mad, man. Everybody trying to teach they weird, but you know who I'm
Breathe,
talking about.
You know who
That's
did
the
it.
old Southern thing. I remember my grandmother used to do that.
I'm trying to tell you, man. I'm trying to tell you. But look, man,
man.
Fresh, you know, man, me and my old lady, man, we've been dating ever since we were 13, man. So
Princess forever. She was part of our squad too, man.
that's it.
Amazing.
She my Mount
Always up
Rushmore. She all 5 heads.
Good man.
Absolutely.
That's a great accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Obviously, condolences again on your dad passing.
Yeah,
Our
Norman.
thoughts and prayers are with you. Definitely. I know. We
My dad's in a better place, man. Dad had his first stroke in 2008, and you know, he had a second one in 2009, and that one confined him to a wheelchair. And you know, from 2015 until this year, man, he just struggled with his health, man. And
Yeah.
you know, so he's not suffering. He's not in any more pain. And as selfish as we want to be, man, we're glad that, you know, he doesn't have to go through that anymore.
So that
I was telling BJ some of the Norman Stith stories in our locker room back in the day. Do you remember we'd be up in like pregame talk and he busted in there. Let's go, boys. What y'all got today? Let's go. We're like, Coach Jones trying to do this. And they're like, sorry, that's B Nice's dad. He can do whatever he wants.
Hey, people in Brunswick call him Stormin' Norman because people never knew when he was gonna bust through the door.
He would come in.
Kool-Aid
But
man.
dude, he loved all of us, man. He
Yes, he
treated us
did, man.
like his own.
I was gonna say BJ talked about like you know the tough upbringing in terms of like no, I wouldn't say tough, but like Brandon chipping his tooth and you playing through it, and like obviously you led through that, but it's a different time, different rules and all that. How do you manage that? Like you're obviously, you know, like many of us from the country, but you just.
My only thing, man, I just wanted to give my kids an edge.
Right.
You know, as long as you got an edge, then you got a chance. You can separate yourself, you know, from your chance, from everybody else, because you're going to experience tough times, man. And you look at that championship team at Virginia, if those dudes didn't have an edge, man, they would have folded, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so that's the credit to, you know,
time.
how you raised your son, you know, Ty and Kyle, and I mean, DeAndre, all of those dudes, man. I don't know them personally because I'm not that close with the program, but you cannot accomplish what you did after going through having the lows of what you did, you know, the previous year. So, you know, that's what I try to help, you know, give my kids.
That makes me feel better than when I didn't feed him after he had bad games while he's growing up.
Oh, man, you too? Look, man. Look, now before I met Barbara now, you know, I used to have little games. So when I used to feed my kids after AAU games, I said, look, when we go up to the door and I heard it was a young lady, I said, all right now, if y'all don't say something nice to her when y'all get this window, you're not going to eat. DJ used to spit game. Oh, I like your hair. You look nice today. Brandon was so shy. Brandon, I used to drive 20 miles before I give Brandon his Big Mac.
That's
Look,
awesome.
man, you can't be scared of females, man. You got to be able to spit game, bro. So we used to have a lot of fun, man, growing up, man. So
that's the best. BJ was talking about how tough you were as a coach, giving him that edge, etc. And he's like, he's telling me about when he played at Virginia, how everybody's yelling at him all the time. I'm like, BJ, I got to do a 20-second timeout. I don't know about his first year, but after your dad's first year, ain't nobody yell at Bryant Stith.
My first year? Oh, hey, fresh. My first year, Dave Odom used to give it to me, bro.
Word?
You hear me? And
like JJ
Coach Holland got sick. And Coach Holland missed like a week. And he basically set me on the bench. I wouldn't play no more the first half, sat on the bench, didn't play no more the game. So the following year, I don't know if you remember, you know who I got my career high against?
Wake Forest.
Like, yeah, 30.
Double overtime, triple overtime. We had an overtime.
One overtime, yeah.
And hit the bucket on talking about the on the baseline.
Yeah, over 2. Yeah, you scored the last 10 of 12 or something like that, I think it was.
I went to karate before the game, and I was like, yo, bro, you know what time it is. I got you, B. That's all he said. He said, I got you, B.
Did Odom say anything to you after the game?
Huh?
Did Odom say anything to you after the game?
No, we just shook hands. Well, I said, good game, coach. Good game.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what about now with BJ and Brandon playing overseas? And they're playing overseas together. Like, what advice do you give them? Do they come to you? Do you guys, like, talk about next steps for their career? Are you part of that, or do you let them just lead their own lives?
Oh, absolutely, man. And my first state championship team, man, I had Brandon, BJ, and this kid by the name of Javante Green. Javante Green went to Radford, second all-time leading scorer, leading rebounder, second in steals, all-time at Radford. He went overseas, and in 3 years worked his way up the ranks. And this past year, he made the Boston Celtics NBA roster with their last pick. Wow. So I told them, I said, look, man, you guys don't realize how close you are to realizing your dreams. You can take the same path as Javante. Your path is different than mine. I was drafted, but that doesn't mean you can't still reach your ultimate goal. So continue to put in the work. You never know who's watching. You may get an opportunity, and that's the only thing you want is a chance. And if you get a chance, then the rest is up to you. So that's my message to them. Have fun, enjoy it, save your money.
That's for sure. That's awesome.
Brian, it was a real pleasure again. Thanks a lot.
Man, it's awesome, man. I appreciate you guys, man. Love you guys much, man. Fresh.
Hope to have you back on.
Love you, boy.
Hey, man, just give me a call, man. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it, B. You're the best, man. Say what's up to everybody, all right? I'll see you soon.
I most certainly will, man. I'm going to go get some dinner, man.
Yeah, be safe.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
All right, now.
Take care.
All right, B.
Do we want to do our intro? Yeah.
I got to run. I'm late to my workout.
Oh, yeah,
my bad.
45 minutes late. No.
Right.
Whatever.
You're good.
This was great.
Or do we want to do the intro?
You guys can do it.
Okay.
You guys know him so well, and you guys ran it. I mean, it's just like, I'm not sure. I mean, I could say something, but.
That worked really well. That worked well with the pictures, and then it flowed into the conversation, you know?
Yeah.
It did. For him, it was different.
Yeah, for him, it's, I mean, everyone that listens to this is going to have a history with him. I don't think anyone's going to be like, hey, some will be like, who's Bryant Stith? Y'all talk about him. Maybe a few people will. I think this one's going to be a big one.
I could do a quick one, just say he's arguably the second best player in University of Virginia basketball history.
All right, just do it. Just do your intro, and then you can bounce it, and then just hand it off to me, and then you can just sign off.
Right.
Okay,
I'll sign off of it. All right.
Bryant Stith is arguably the second best player in the history of University of Virginia basketball. As he is talented, he is also humble. T-Dubs, you named your son after Bryant. That's how important this guy is.
Absolutely. I mean, he's everything. And as a kid growing up, and my parents used to say you don't get to choose your parents, but you get to choose your idols, your heroes, and he was definitely one of them. He was actually the one. Like as a kid growing up, you just in Charlottesville, there's one name, Bryant Stith. He was a huge, huge star. I mean, I don't know how you looked at him fresh when you were coming up, but for me, he was like right away valedictorian. We didn't talk about this. Valedictorian of his high school. He was all around like super nice guy. I mean, he's just like he checked off every box of like the legend of someone. He was always there. What do you remember about him?
Yeah, it's the same thing. He's a year ahead of me, so he had his unbelievable rookie year. I don't know if he's ACC Rookie Player of the Year or what. Should have been. And for me to be able to see a guy like that and his leadership by example, not to mention his talent, just for me to come up along there and how great of a guy I was. Sat in the front row of every single class he took at Virginia. Never missed a class unless we were on the road. Handled his business from, A to Z. Not a partier. Didn't get caught up in nonsense, but just a really, really good example. And it's like, for me, being able to talk to him about a lot of the things that I knew, but learn things I didn't, it's such a special guy, man.
Yeah, it was really cool. Did you pick up anything that you learned on this thing? I mean, obviously, I kind of like dominated the questions, but
yeah, no, this was definitely your thing. But a lot about the recruiting, I didn't know his Christian Laettner connection at all. We never talked about that, and I knew he got recruited by everybody. Some of the NBA stories, I guess. Obviously, nothing in college I would have really got, but I think it's important too. He's talking about being roommates with a football team, and kind of his whole breadth of everything he did and means at Virginia. He was always a professional.
Yeah, always.
What I did not know is that he didn't know he would be a top 15 pick.
Yeah, I actually thought he was going to be. Obviously, as a kid fan, you hear LaFonso Ellis at 5, you're like, wait, what? That should have been, like you're like,
Yeah.
It's way better than him. What in that world?
I guess that was different metrics in those two. And
Yeah.
LaFonso, it's cool because we were actually 4-0 against Notre Dame my time.
Yeah.
And Bryant was in every game, and we always played LaFonso, and now they're lifelong buddies, same draft, same team. So
It's so weird.
just two
Small world.
great guys.
I remember there's like a basketball card. I have to find it, put it in this intro, but it's him and LaFonso on the cover of the card, and it's like the rookie class of 93. It's pretty cool. I don't know. I have to dig it up.
Yeah, well, we should have asked him a little more about that relationship, but he probably could talk forever
Yeah.
on that.
Well,
He's
we'll
just a consummate professional, man, at a young age,
Yeah.
way
we'll see.
mature above his years and everything else.
This will be cool. I mean, this is a lot of info for one little session. How long was it? 2 hours? You break it. We have to break it up into 2 parts. So, we'll figure it out. And for the people listening, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Search Locker Room Access. You've got us on Spotify, Apple. We added Stitcher. We added Google Podcasts. I think Pocket Podcast is another one we're on. Check us out on the forum. Who's Got Next posting a recruiting update. We've got the Jay Willie show coming up. We got a lot of content coming up. If you have any questions, concerns, jump on the forum, ask away. Fresh and Mark and some of the guys are always on there. We might do a player Q&A soon too. What do you think about that, Fresh? Like,
Yeah, great idea. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. We'll have a current player on there soon. We'll figure out who. If you want to make suggestions, hit us up. DM, Instagram, Twitter.
We have to make sure that people don't forget who our current roster is. We've been going so far back
Yeah, that's
into the history of Virginia.
pandemic.
Back.
Yeah, pandemic issues, right? We'll get a little more focused on the current team and where we stand here, starting with the Jay Willie show today, I think. So if you haven't seen that, we'll put that link in the description below. And it was cool for me to hear from my hero, which was awesome. Appreciate that, Fresh.
Yeah,
and
man,
enjoy everyone.
Made my day.